Hey guys, welcome back to A Page in the Chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige and it is time for my November TBR. God, the months are just going so quickly. How on earth are we like almost in November? That's scary. But it also does mean that it's nearly Christmas, and hopefully I'll actually like gain an ounce of serotonin in the Christmas period. So I have decided that I'm gonna freestyle a little bit with November. I'm really in the mood for romance. I think the reason that my October TBR, my Magical Hopathon TBR, has gone to hell a little bit is because of my romance mood, and it's just not really what I want to read right now, and it's really difficult to get through. So I'm putting a lot of what I want to read on my November TBR and also just leaving myself room to freestyle a bit, not really planning on sticking to this one with like 100% accuracy. I also was low-key tempted to take part in the LDR-a-thon. I'm still kind of tempted to do that. I might decide later, like towards the end of this week or partway through November, to take part in it and then just make what I've read match. I'm not sure right now if going from one readathon to another is going to be such a good idea if I'm feeling slumpy. I'm gonna wing that one as well. I also am starting a job in November, so I've been given quite a few hours straight out the gate. I'm guessing because the run up to Christmas is a busy time for bars and restaurants right now, and because they're training me. I'm really actually quite excited about this job. I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun doing it, and it gets me out the house, and it's just gonna help me with like feeling like mentally low to just be doing something. But it does mean that I probably won't be reading as much, which is another reason that why I should necessarily join a readathon. I'm gonna be winging it in November, but these are kind of the books that I'm interested in reading and are on my short list of books to pick from. If you guys enjoy seeing wrap-ups and TBRs, do feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below. I upload twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there's no shortage of bookish content here for you to enjoy. You guys can also check me out on Instagram and Twitter at Page in Chapter for a more up-to-date what I'm reading, how I'm reviewing it, pictures of my dogs type of situation. And yeah, I won't ramble anymore. Without further ado, let's get into my vague plan for my November TBR. So these first few books are books that were on my Magical Hopathon TBR that I know I will not be getting to this month, but I kind of wish that I had prioritised this park, because I don't think I would be in a reading slump had I arranged the parks that I went to differently. Of all of the books on my Magical Hopathon TBR, these are the ones that I'm now the most interested in getting to, so I'm just gonna put them straight onto my November one. This first one is like the one that I am kind of dying to get to, and that is A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. As I said, really in the mood for romance right now. Fantasy romance is kind of like a perfect sweet spot for me, and this is that. I really enjoyed the first book. It follows our main character Poppy, and she is deemed the maiden in this patriarchal society, so no one can see her, no one can touch her. She's basically imprisoned in a castle, and like it's a very luxury prison, but it's still a prison. She is assigned a new guard because someone is trying to kill her so that she cannot be a powerful tool for this patriarchal society, and it is about how this new bodyguard makes her feel things that she should not be feeling as the maiden. But yeah, I really want to get to this book. I'm in the mood for light-hearted romances and smutty romances, and that is it. That's all I'm in the mood for. So this is gonna fit the bill, and even though it's big and it's a fantasy and you would think this would make my slump worse, this is like the book that I'm craving to read right now. Then the next book is A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. This is just gonna be like a short read and probably a very cozy read, and I might be in the mood for cozy at some point in November. This doesn't fit the whole romance thing that I was talking about, not that I'm aware anyway, but I'm still very interested in reading it, and I think that the mood for this one could take me, so I want it as an option. This has really good reviews. I haven't seen anyone review this negatively. The blurb doesn't give much away, but it gives me like Disney Pixar's Up vibes, because it's about this very old grumpy man who is really old-fashioned, doesn't really appreciate how society is moving forward, it makes him even grumpier. But it's kind of about how the qualities that Ove represents, and I guess the older generation in general represents, these qualities are going to be missed and how important they really are. At least that's what I think anyway. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from the blurb. This doesn't fit the bill, but I just think it's a good option to have. And then the next one that was on my Hopathon TBR is A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. I put a picture of this on my Instagram because it's stunning, and I had so many people comment and tell me that they read this book and absolutely adored it. It was like one of the best things they'd ever read. They cannot wait to reread it. I honestly didn't realise that this was such a well-known book, but apparently it is, and so I'm quite interested to get to it. This might actually be more towards the end of November, might end up being pushed onto my December TBR because the cover is kind of Christmas vibes. But this is about our main character Lou in Cornwall in the 1920s, and she is whisked into this whirlwind, sparkling lifestyle of the 1920s Cornwall, and it is about her having to stay true to herself and realise that she shouldn't get like completely sucked into this world because there's a darker side to it. And so it's a historical fiction, contemporary kind of thing. As far as I know, this is not a fantasy. It might have a romance in it. There's nothing on the back to lead me to believe that it would have a romance in it, but on the sole fact that it might do, and it has good reviews, I'm putting it on my TBR. My whole TBR is low-key Rachel inspired because the first 3 books on my TBR are an extension of the Magical Hopathon, and then these next 2 books are also in some way related to Rachel. So my November TBR is just Rachel. So the next book that I'm hoping to get to in November is Walking on Sunshine by Giovanna Fletcher. This is the November book club pick for Rachel's Books and Me book club, I believe. I hope so anyway. Either way, on my TBR is Rachel's book club pick for November. I think it's this book, but I could be wrong. I didn't have such a good time with Giovanna Fletcher when Billy and Me was the book club pick, but this is Giovanna Fletcher's most recent one. I'm willing to give it another go. I think being part of the book club will guarantee that at least one book gets read, and I'm just interested to see if I like Giovanna Fletcher's more recent stuff more, and if I don't, then I don't, and I can say that I really did give it a try. And as I said, I want some more romance / contemporaries. Like, that's just what I want to read. This is kind of what Rachel's whole book club is about, so I may as well take part. And then the next book is The Falling in Love Montage by Kira Smith, and Rachel very kindly sent this to me because she's lovely. I'm very excited about this book. I very nearly put this on my Magical Hopathon TBR, and I now wish that I had done, because I may have gotten further. Rachel and I were having a conversation about how much we loved the family elements in Morgan Matson's Second Chance Summer, I believe. A little while later, Rachel was reading this book and she messaged me and she was like, this kind of gives me that same vibe. The family elements are just as strong. I think you'd really like it. I want some contemporary. I want the romance so badly. If this is Morgan Matson vibes, I'm not going to say no, because I've officially ran out of Morgan Matson books to read, and that is the saddest thing to happen to me this year. I'm kidding. That would be a real first world problem. And then the next books that I want to get to are the To All the Boys I've Loved Before series. I just ordered this whole box set on Books to Door for £10. If you're looking for like trilogy box sets, or really any box sets in general for a really good price, and you're in the UK, I highly recommend Books to Door. Because I'm isolating, I was really in the mood to watch the first movie. I've seen the first movie, but I haven't seen the others. And I was like, oh, well, I'm isolating, so why don't I just stay in bed all day and watch all 3? And then I was like, no, I'll just buy the books. So I bought all 3 books. I think that this series looks really nice. There was a period of time way back in the day, like 2013, 2014, where these books were like pride of place on every single person's bookshelves, and like you'd be watching BookTube and you could always see these books in the background, and I think they look really pretty, and I don't really know why I discarded the thought of ever reading them. I think they're going to be really good and exactly what I'm in the mood for. I want the fluffy goodness, I want the fluffy love, I want to pretend that none of my problems exist by reading about teenage love problems. That's what I want right now. And then the final book that's like made it onto my shortlist is Furyborn by Claire Legrand. This is a high fantasy novel and it's not a fantasy romance. So not what I'm in the mood for, but I wanted to have an option in case that mood changed, because I was really in the mood for fantasy and dark books at the beginning of October, and then my mood changed halfway through. So I can't trust myself anymore. Apparently my moods just be changing all the time. So I wanted an option. This is a dual perspective, like monarchy type fantasy. It follows two young women centuries apart as their stories intertwine and overlap, and from centuries apart end up actually helping each other in their two different timelines. I'm hoping that the whole like timeline thing doesn't get very confusing. It kind of gives me Queen of the Tearling vibes, if you've read that. That's the kind of vibe that this gives me, although I'm hoping that this will have a better ending than that one did. But yeah, I want this on my TBR just in case I'm in the mood for it. I did say in my end of the year book tag that I wanted to start transitioning to fantasy and cozy, and that I was going to use this book to do it. So if my mood goes back there and I feel in a better headspace to start reading high fantasy, then I wanted to make sure that that was there. Plus I love this cover. I think it's beautiful and I do really want to read it, don't get me wrong, so it's an option. That is my whole TBR. It looks really small, but there's also 3 books that haven't arrived yet and the book club pick, so it's actually 9 books on my TBR. But I'm kind of going into this month with the understanding that I will not get all of them done at all. There's just a lot changing for me in my life right now. My schedule's changing. Everything just seems to be changing, and I don't want to put too much pressure on myself to read a massive TBR as well as work what is essentially full-time hours and produce 2 videos a week. For the first time since I've started doing TBRs, this is just a guideline. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you've read any of these books, do let me know what you think of them down below. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on the To All the Boys I've Loved Before book versus movie debate, because I'm interested to hear if you think the book is better than the movie. You guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more, do feel free to hit that big red subscribe button. There's absolutely no shortage of bookish content here, and if you want to see what I think of these books, if I ever end up actually getting to them, how things turn out for me, then subscribe and make sure that you don't miss a video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you are having a fantastic week. You enjoy everything that you are reading and there are no reading slumps in your future. And I will see you next week for my next video. Bye guys.